Yo, what's up everyone? Toshi here. So we're gonna do a tier list revamp from the last one we did previously on the channel. Not a lot has changed so far from the actual pre-release tier list we did. Now, as you all know, I can make this tier list like 40 minutes by me just rambling on about characters and what they do, kind of describing each character because I'm a freaking weirdo. But I'll try to make this as condensed as possible and not waste your time more than I'm already wasting it now, right? All right, let's get into it. Seal, undisputably the strongest single target DPS in the game. I'd say the strongest DPS in the game. As of the math that's shown it very recently from the theory crafters, she's one of the best characters you can have on your account. She is the coolest, most badass character you can have on your account. She is awesome. And that's why her rating is so high. She has a really high rating for bossing, farming in general. General is just across the board of everything that you can do in the game. Now, like I said before, she's best character to fight bosses with, right? Thumbs up if they're quantum, because then you have even more damage with the break potential. Farming, she's really good because she has to take turn mechanic. Whenever you defeat an enemy, you get a reset on your turn, and then you can go again and deal even more damage. Very strong character. She also has speed buffing capabilities. She has a action bar increase, action forward, like what Bronya gives to other characters. Well, Seal can do that for herself. Next up, we have Bronya. Bronya is really strong. Definitely deserves to be in the S plus category. I would say she's even double S if there was a tier higher than this. She did get nerfed recently, as we went over in the previous balance patch video. I don't think her rating changed much from that, but I will say she might be a little less effective than Tingyun, and only because of the nerf she received. Well, if something was in a character's kit or was a function of how a character's kit worked, and it was taken away from that kit, right? And the character is worse than the way that character was previously, that is a nerf, point blank period. And Bronya got nerfed. Sad to see, but she's still by far the strongest character for support wise in the game. She pushes up the CR of your character action forward, right? So you're able to take the turn after you use the elemental skill from Bronya on that allied character. She also gives an attack buff, she gives a crit damage buff, and she gives an overall damage buff. Very strong character, okay? Very strong character. If you have her light code, you can give energy to that ally. You can also give skill points. Really good. Constellations make this character even better, but at a C0, E0 in this game, right? 0 constellations, this character is still the best support in the game by far. Hopefully she is safe from nerfs going forward until the actual game comes out. Next up, we have Tingyun. Tingyun is a very, very strong 4-star support. This character wasn't in the recent balance patch, but there wasn't any 4-star characters as far as I'm concerned. So she may receive a nerf before the actual release of the game, because this character is really strong. We used her in the beta with Himeko, and she made Himeko so much better. Giving energy to your ally with the ultimate from Tingyun is so massive. It allows your DPS characters to get more uptime on their ults, which is in turn more DPS overall. She also gives a damage buff and an attack buff to that ally, who she uses her elemental skill and her ulti on. So being a nice battery, a nice attack buffer, and a nice damage buffer overall makes this character extremely strong, and a 4-star at that. You don't need any constellations for Tingyun. At a C0 character, she is really busted. That's why she deserves to be here. Clara, 5-star counterattack character. We don't have a counterattack character currently other than Clara in the game, so she has a very unique playstyle from other characters in the game. With that being said, she's also a very nice frontliner to have on your team, because she does take more attention away from the boss, so she's able to be hit by the boss more often, and your ally characters, or just even regular mobs too. Any mob, she has more potential to be attacked from those enemies than other characters on your team. So if you put Clara with a character like Seal, who also has built-in stealth mitigation, right? So Seal can actually bypass attacks from the enemy also, then you have a character that will essentially act as a front line for your single target DPS like Seal or Yanqing. What Clara really excels in is the counterattack mechanic she has in her kit. Whenever she is attacked by the enemy, or an ally is attacked for the first 2 times, then she will counterattack the enemy, dealing massive damage. And this is after you press your ulti. The character can still counterattack whenever the enemy hits Clara, right after she uses her ult, but this character does massive damage with the counterattacks. And if you actually use her elemental skill, then you do a nice chunk of AoE damage. So that's why she's pretty decent for farming. Very strong character. And I'm sure late game she'll be extremely strong when you have the proper stats on her. Because of the built-in mitigation she has, maybe you get a couple constellations later into the future, you're going to have yourself a very strong 5-star DPS carry. Next up, we have Su Sheng, a very solid 4-star single target DPS, very good for farming, bossing in general from what it says here. Now, what's interesting to note is there hasn't been a balance patch for the 4 stars yet, so maybe this character receives tweaks, But as it stands currently, she is a very strong 4-star single target DPS, right? And physical element at that. So comparing this to the physical Trailblaze main character, right? She is 10 times better. She provides more damage, she's stronger, and she's more consistent. And I think this character will be a character that you all enjoy to use if you have her on your account. And that's assuming she stays as where she is currently on the tier list and she doesn't receive any nerfs, right? Because she's very strong for a 4-star character. Next up, we have Pela, a very nice debuffer. Now, defense shred is no joke. Defense shred is really good whenever you're fighting bosses. Bosses have higher resistance. They also have higher defense, right? It really helps when you take into consideration characters like Seal needs a one shot on the enemy to get a reset, right? Pela does exactly what you would want from a support debuffer, and that is put a defense break on the enemy. With her being a 4-star, she is easy to obtain. She's very reliable with her defense shred. And currently, as it stands, we don't have Silverwolf in the game right now, who also does the defense shred while also having a resistance decrease on the enemy. So Silverwolf will be a better version of Pela, but as it stands right now, with Pela being a 4-star and the only one that could do defense shred in the game currently, she is very, very good to pair with your DPS characters. So she definitely deserves this rating. Next up, we have Bailu. Bailu. I still think this character is double S for sure. She has so much healing. She has a revive. She is a very reliable character. You don't need any constellations for her. You don't need to build her any other way than just full HP, right? Full HP and full resistance, because this character heals based on her max HP. So the more HP you have on her, the more she heals, like Kokumi from Genshin Impact. She's also very reliable for a lot of casual players because she's very, noob proof. I don't mean to call anyone noobs, but this character is very, very nice for people that are new to turn-based games or just want a very chillax experience playing Honkai Star Rail. And if that's you, then this will be the character for you. She provides everything you would want as a healer, as a support in your team comps. And with her being very reliable, you can put her in your farming team and just let it play on auto because she is very reliable. It doesn't matter if your farming session takes 10 minutes to clear, because if you have her there, you will never fail. She gives a lot of healing. She has a revive for one of your allies if they die. She's very reliable. I really do believe this character needs to be higher than this because she is so strong. She has a revive. No other character in the game currently can revive. So when you hit the in-game content and you need 2 healers, one on each side of the Spiral Abyss-like content in this game, Honkai Star Rail, then you will find even more value with Bailu, because once your ally is dead in that game mode, well, you have no other way to bring them back aside from Bailu reviving that character, which makes her really good to pair with a character like Seal, who may die to a hit and you need to revive them or you just restart the battle. And Bailu is that character you want to use with Seal. So she deserves to be way higher than this. Very, very disappointed to see her this low. Next up, we have Gepard. Now, the interesting part about Gepard is he's a very nice front line, kind of like Clara. He has shields for the whole team, lots of shielding potential, very strong shields, the strongest shields in the game. With him being ice element is very nice for against ice enemies, right? You put him with a character like Yanqing and he will take most of the attacks, provide Yanqing with the shield that Yanqing needs, and be very good against those ice enemies. He's just a standard shielder like Zhongli from Genshin Impact, nothing too special about the character. And Gepard does have a chance to freeze the enemy, which is very nice. But aside from that, he really just provides the chance to freeze the enemy and shields, while also having the chance to be attacked by the enemy more often, kind of like Clara. But you really wouldn't want to use these two characters together unless you have multiple copies of Clara to be able to have your allies hit more and more and more, so you can get more value with the counterattacks. But as it stands currently, he's a really solid shielder character, but definitely not in the same tier as Bailu. I'm very disappointed to see this though, but a very reliable shielder. Now there is something to note. Currently we don't have a corrosion effect in Honkai Star Rail like you're familiar with Genshin Impact, where corrosion in Genshin Impact, whenever you took damage from the doggos, well, and you had a shield on, the damage still went through the shields. So the heals was much more effective because you could not shield corrosion effect. With that being said, we don't have that currently, so there's something to keep your eye out for in case you're trying to go for Gepard. He may fall off at some point because that is a mechanic that Hoyo already knows works. I'm just letting you know. Next up, we have Trailblaze Fire. Now, the Trailblazer Fire main character is the free, the character you get for free, the main character. Very nice shield potential, very reliable with that. I still don't believe she's in the same tier as Bailu. This character has a revive. I'm very salty about this because I've always hyped this character up to be one of the best characters in the game. But don't get me wrong, Trailblazer Fire version is still really good with shields, taunts on the enemy, a very nice frontliner, probably better than Gepard because of the taunts that Trailblaze Fire does have. very nice damage whenever you do get the stacks up from your passive. This character is really good. You'll be using him or her depending on whatever one you choose when you actually do play Honkai Star Rail for the first time. This will be one of the characters you most likely have on your team if you are free to play. Very strong support or support tank, both really, because he has a taunt, right? He or she has a taunt, and also having the shielding capabilities. So a very nice support and tank. Okay, next up we have Arlan. So this character is interesting. The lower his HP is, the more damage he does. But the problem is from what I've seen, he has very low base defense. There is a lot of bosses in this game that can one-shot. So you constantly have to use this character with a shielder like Gepard. Don't know if the shield from the Trailblazer main character is going to be strong enough to protect Arlan from getting one-shot. Now, he does have a revive whenever you do get his... He does have a revive at his E4 or Constellation 4 in his kit. Whenever he dies, he can revive from the dead, which is pretty nice because you don't have to constantly use him with a character like Bailu, who you probably don't want to use him with anyways because she would just heal and he would do less damage. This character is a very risky playstyle, very dangerous. I don't suggest him for a lot of players in this game because if you do die, then you don't have any DPS. He's a very risky playstyle that I would only suggest for in-game players, but with his ratings being where it stands, I can understand because he does have low defense. This character does have a lot of potential in the future, and this is just a pre-release tier list. Now, when we do hit the late game, we have better stats. This character probably will be way better because of the sheer damage he can put out, especially if you give him really good stats, really good crit rate, crit damage, some HP, some attack. He'll probably be a way better character than what he is currently. Dan Heng, 4-star character we get for free. Now, he is undoubtedly a really strong 4-star character that we get for free. And with him being a free character, he is extremely good. So dang good, you'll probably use him in your team for a long time in the beginning of the game. He's very good for bossing as a single target DPS of the hunt category. He has a slow in his kit, which makes it very valuable for what he wants to accomplish with his ultimate. If you did not know, Dan Heng has a slow, and with his ult, whenever the enemy is slowed, you do additional damage if the enemy is slowed. So that's why he's very good. He's able to meet the max threshold of damage with his own kit. He doesn't really need a support necessarily like Welt to accomplish the slow in the enemy to be able to do maximum damage. Very strong, self-capable DPS character, but if you do put him with a character like Bronya or Tingyun, you would get even more value out of Dan Heng. But still, for a 4-star you get for free, he's very good. Very, very good. And with a slow in his kit, he has the utility to slow down the boss, which allows you to take more turns constantly because the enemy is slowed and you'll have more speed. So he's a very strong character. Undoubtedly, I most likely will be using him in my teams whenever I obtain him on my account. Himeko. Now, this character I was super excited to talk about in this tier list. She did receive tweaks as we went over in the balance patch video. If you don't know what tweaks it was, I suggest you go and check out that video. But TLDR, she has burns in her kit now with her basic attack, her elemental skill, her passive, and her ultimate. So this character can constantly stack burns on the enemy, constantly do damage passively, do a lot of damage AoE. She does decent single target damage. She also has very nice damage on her ultimate. She has damage stacking with her light cone whenever she kills the enemy. So she's undoubtedly the best farmer in the game by far. The best AoE wave damage clearer in the game. However, she is also a really good character now for bossing because of her burns. You can put her with a character like Hook, who also has burns in the kit, and you have a very solid burn team there. When Kafka comes out, this character should have more value because Kafka does help with that burn, or that dot team, I should say rather, the damage over time. So Himeko is definitely way better than where it stands currently. If I had to give her a better rating, I would say generally for now, she would be an A in bossing. Her farming will still be S+. However, when the game comes out and we actually see the true value of Himeko, she could be S+ for all we know because of the burns they added to the kit of the character. We'll just have to wait and see. Asta, you all know this is my favorite 4-star in the game. She's really, really good. She has a full team speed increase. This is really massive. There's no other character in the game currently that gives a team-wide speed buff. She's very valuable in a team comp where you want to constantly take the turns, right? I would love to pair her with a character like Welt, and I'm kind of glad they're in the same category because these two characters would be really good as two baseline supports to have for your account. One can decrease the enemy's speed and one can increase your team speed. You put those two in the same team and you have a very strong 2-support team right there. Now you can put a healer also like Bailu, who will come into the mix and give heals and a revive, which is value in itself. For a safety net, you could put a shooter like the Trailblazer main character, male or female, depending on which one you use for the shield and the taunt capabilities. Or you can also put in Bronya for more DPS, for a CR push, right, to constantly take the turn even more. And with that being said, I do believe these two characters are extremely solid in what they do. Welt with the decreased speed, with the massive damage potential, with the recent balance patch. He allows the enemy to take more damage from your team. So he has damage amplification capabilities with the team comp, whatever team you put him in, because that is a net positive in terms of DPS for your overall team. And with Asta also boosting attack in her kit, she boosts team-wide attack. So Asta's 4-star light cone gives a damage buff depending on the element of the welder. So with Asta being fire, you're going to get a damage increase for the fire characters on that team, which makes her a very valuable character to have in fire teams. However, if you're not using her in fire teams, she still has massive value because of the speed buff she provides and the overall attack buff she gives with the passive. I love this character. And well, I love this character now too. He's really good. If I had to rate these two characters, I would give Asta triple S across the board. Not S plus, but triple S. And then Welt, I would give Welt a S plus in bossing 100%. And I would give him an A in farming. I think he would stay the same there. But bossing, he's a really solid character now, especially with having the strongest slow in the game, delay actions on the enemy, so the enemy's turn order gets pushed back, and putting that greater slow on the enemy is really, really massive right there in itself. This character is extremely good. March 7th, a very nice 4-star character you get for free in the game, a very nice paired character with Clara. I do believe that the potential of this character could fall off into the late game, especially when you need more shielding, maybe more healing, but as a 4-star free character you get in the game, you can't go wrong with using her. Now, I don't know if it's going to be like an Amber situation or a Cole situation where the character does not really serve a purpose until the late game, because, well, no one has really reached the late game of Honkai Star Rail yet. But with this character providing a shield for that ally and a very strong shield at that, depending on the defense on March 7th, you will have a very nice character to use for the early to mid game and maybe some stages into the late game. She also has a freeze in her kit where she can freeze the enemy with her ultimate. Very valuable with that in itself. And with her being ice element too, you also have the freeze debuff in the aspect of just being the ice element whenever you trigger weakness break on the enemy. A very solid 4-star character that you get for free, and she looks cute, right? Who doesn't love the actual design behind March 7th? Natasha, 4-star physical healer. Now we get her for free, and you get her pretty far into the game. By the time you get her, you'll be like, wow, this is great. I was using shields all before though. But this character is really good. Especially getting her for free. You have her, you'll use her, especially when you do these Forgotten Hall Spiral Abyss equivalent in this game, where you need to have a healer on both sides or a shielder on both sides to be able to survive damage from the enemy. While she provides a lot of healing, she also can remove a debuff on one of your allies. Now, Bronya does have a remove debuff on her elemental skill as well, which I forgot to mention, but Natasha has the healing behind it, which makes more sense. So being able to remove a defense down on one of your allies is very crucial. Let's say your ally is Clara, which I use a lot with Natasha, and you have a defense down on your Clara. Well, Natasha can come in, remove that debuff from your Clara, and allow your Clara to tank much more often, because you won't have to worry about your defense being lowered. So she's a very nice support character you get for free that can remove a debuff on your ally. Like you use her against single target bosses, right? You can remove that debuff on that enemy that ally that keeps getting attacked by the boss, right? And in this case, Clara. So a team that's really solid is Natasha and March 7th with Clara, and the last pick can be any flex character. That's the team I use a lot in the CBT. Next up, we have Serval. Now, this character is very interesting. She has very nice AoE damage. And let me just start by saying you actually do get her for free when you play Honkai Star, right? She's a part of the pre-registration bonus rewards, right? She's very nice for farming. You put her in a team with Himeko, and you have a lot of AoE damage wave clear there. But that doesn't stop, because she actually has a lot of value against bosses. This character can put dots on the enemy, damage over time effects, which makes her really good now with a character like Himeko, who also does dots and does AoE wave clear. Now, these two should be a very nice pair to have on your account. In turn, when you actually do use it with Sampo, you will have even more dot amplifications in that team comp. Kafka comes around, this character will have even more value because Kafka is also the lightning element, while also providing amplification to damage over time effects anyways. So Serval is a very solid 4-star character you get for free. You also do get her light cone for free via the event that was not posted too long ago. Well, now it's been a while, but the event I'm sure you're all familiar with, where you get the 4-star light cone for Serval for free by just participating in the event, and you'll have a very strong character to start the game off with. This character should have more value going forward into the future, especially with the release of Kafka. Yanqing, this character is pretty good. He's extremely good, best in slot really, against ice element weakness enemies. He does suffer with farming because he only does single target damage. He doesn't have a take turn mechanic like Seal does, in the sense of, you you kill an enemy and you get a turn reset. He doesn't have that in his kit. He does have a freeze, which is very nice, but you really only want to use that when you're fighting single enemies. But where it stands currently, I can understand his rating being B in farming because he's not really the best farmer to have on your account. Also, he does have a little bit of RNG where you can't extra attack all the time because of the RNG he has. There's going to be some times where you only do one attack and that's it. You don't get the proc attack afterwards because you don't win the chance to get the extra attack. So I'm not really fond of the RNG he has in his kit, but with him being a very strong character to fight against enemies with ice weakness, because he has damage amplifications if the enemy is weak to ice element, he's going to be a very nice strong character to use against single target enemies that does have the ice element weakness. A very good single target damage dealer at that. Next up we have Hook. Hook, a very solid character to use in the fire team, the full fire team. You can also put Hook in a team with a dot focus because Hook has dots in Hook's kit. I don't know what the gender of Hook is, so I just say Hook in general. I don't say he or she because I don't know for sure. But this character is really good to use in that team with the dots. That's why the boss rating is pretty high. Now the farming does drop off because this character is only single target. Very massive single target damage, but the farming aspect makes a lot of sense. You don't get turn resets on this character. You have no source of AoE damage, and not the best farmer for that, but a very solid 4-star character to use in a dot focus team. Also, very nice to use in a full fire team. Sampo, that doesn't show in his ratings, but he has a lot of amplifications for buffing dot damage. Now, that's something no one has really been able to test yet from the CBT. Now, when the game does release, this character should have more value because he does buff dot damage. So he'll be really good in a team focused with Serval and Himeko with the dots. Being able to do dot damage himself and buff it will make him a very solid support character to have in that team. Now, his rating is where it stands currently because no one really knows how much potential or what he's going to do on release. Just from the looks of his kit and the synergy he would have with the dot carries, he seems like a very solid character to have on your account, especially when Kafka does release. Kafka being a very dot focused character, Shampoo should see a lot more value. Trailblazer Physical. I did use him a little bit in the beta, really wasn't a fan of him. He was okay with farming. He does have a little bit of AoE damage, not too much. He does have decent shield break potential, but aside from that, he's just pretty bad. Now, you do get him in the beginning of the game as the first character really, and I was not fond of him. Now, I do hope that he does receive a little bit of tweaks, but it really wouldn't make much sense for him to get any tweaks because there is characters like Xusheng and Clara, who kind of does what he wants to do anyways, as a physical damage dealer. Now, he does have tanking capabilities because he is destruction, so it's very nice in that regard, but aside from that, he just doesn't really hold up too well. Feels bad. Herta. I love Herta. She is one of the coolest characters in this game. Unique character. I love her puppet design. I love the aesthetic around this character. I'm very sad that she is, C in bossing. I really wish that she had a more, coverage with bosses, but it makes a lot of sense, right? She's mostly a character you want to use for farming against, trash mobs because of her spin attack crew. She constantly does that whenever she gets the enemy below half HP. And if you have 5 enemies that are below half HP, then she will spin 5 times in a row, dealing massive AoE damage. But aside from doing massive AoE damage as an ice element 4-star character you get for free in the game, she's just that niche. And it's sad to see. She was nerfed in previous betas, and that's why she ended up where she is now. Very sad about that. But you know what? She'll at least be a really nice character you use in your farming team, especially with Himeko. Oh man, use Herta of Himeko in your farming team. You'll have a clean, quick, and easy clear. And Qingque. This is looking like the Qingque of Honkai Star Rail, the worst character in the game by far. If this character receives any buffs, I'd be very happy. But this character needs a little bit of ramping to get going. I'm not a fan of her dice mechanic. It seems like if you use this character, you're a gambler and you have a gambling addiction. Probably me. I really wish this character receives a tweak before the game does release because she is bad. So bad. And with her being Quantum Element, there is a lot of potential there because we don't have very many Quantum Element characters in the game currently. But with that being said, you do get this character for free, or at least I did in the CBT. You should get her for free in the actual release of the game, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Because Seal will be the rate up banner, and Seal is pretty much the best Quantum character in the game, so they don't want you to use this character over Seal. But that's pretty much going to be all the characters here. The only ones I generally disagree with is Bailu. This character should be S+, with the other S+ characters here. And then, Welt should also be S+ for bossing because of the greater slow he has on his kit. To be able to decrease the enemy's action forward is very massive, and the turn order, and also having more damage amplifications on the enemy is very massive for your team damage overall. This character deserves way more love to where he's placed right now. And Asta, I believe this character should be S across the board. She's a very nice character to have with the team-wide speed buff, especially when you actually level up the talent. You'll have a higher speed increase, which is very valuable in a team where you want to go fast anyways. She has a lot of synergy with a lot of characters, and especially with Welt, there's a lot of synergy there because you'll have more speed and the enemy will have less speed. But overall, everything seems pretty much where it should be. Sampo should have a lot more value in the future when Kapka does release. And then Himeko is much better now with the buff she received, so she should be better with bossing because of her dot damage over time. Now, it's pretty much going to be the video here. Hopefully, you all got something out of this. I tried to make it as concise as possible, and it ended up taking like a 30-minute record session as always. Still shorter than the last video I did for sure. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the release of Honkai Star Rail. I will be playing this game so much that my eyes are going to fall out and I'm going to burn out probably the first week of the game, but it's all good because I'm going to have to grind it every day anyways because daily commissions exist. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you all for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.